Hi guys, last year the Mazda CX-5 was the most popular SUV sold all year, and this year it's on track to do it again. There's been more CX-5s sold than any other SUV so far through March. Why are they so popular? Well, today I've got the 2018 GT variant right here that we can go over in detail to try and discover what makes them so popular. Why are they so good? Let's start with the design. Mazda gave the CX-5 a facelift last year and gave it this new inverted grille at the front and these thin focused headlights. Now, design is a subjective thing. It's a bit like saying what's the best color in the world. Everyone has their own opinion, everyone has their own taste. But I'm sure most will agree this latest CX-5 definitely has a emotion-stirring design. Okay, fair enough. From a distance, the rear does look pretty generic, but the front is definitely sporty and bespoke to Mazda. The first thing that stands out for me in the design is this pointy front end. It's like a shark nose at the front, at the top. I'm not sure how Mazda passed pedestrian safety, because you look at that and you think that's definitely going to be painful. But the CX-5 has passed AMCAP safety standards, and that includes a pedestrian safety test. You'll also notice the nose is quite low and protrudes out the front, so it's got what they call a long overhang. Compared with a more rugged off-roader, you want that to be really short so it doesn't scrape out on anything. As such, the CX-5 has an approach angle of 17 degrees, which isn't very good compared with other SUVs in this segment. If you've just stepped out of a hatchback or a mid-sized sedan or wagon, the approach angle is going to be fine. You can go into driveways and not have to worry too much. But if you've just jumped out of another SUV, like a Subaru Forester or something like that, you will need to slow down a little bit when you're hitting steep driveways and speed bumps. Being the GT, this comes with 19-inch alloy wheels with fairly tall profile tyres. They're not the tyre of choice for me. They're Toyos. They're not the highest quality or premium tyres that you might see on some of the European cars, but they do just fine, and they absorb a lot of the bumps and things because of the tall sidewalls. And as I said, around at the back, it's quite cute. It looks a bit like the Mazda 3. It looks a little bit generic from a distance, but I like this integrated rear spoiler that wraps around the windscreen there. That looks really cool. And then the taillights, which are reminiscent of the latest MX-5. I love the way the lens is actually carved into this outer cluster here. Under the body, and this is probably going to be a bit nerdy of me, but I like actually looking underneath the cars of all new models that we test drive. And under the CX-5, you'll notice a complex independent rear suspension system, front and rear. This is an ideal setup for both sporty driving and comfort. Anybody can wrap a nice body over a pretty poor platform, and there are a few cars on the market at the moment that do have pretty shoddy underpinnings with very basic rear end suspension setups. Obviously this version is all-wheel drive, so it's got a pretty complex rear end with the differential at the back. Let's have a look under the bonnet. This is the 2.2 litre turbo diesel 4-cylinder engine producing 129 kilowatts and 420 newton meters. It's one of the most powerful diesel engines in this specific class. I think the Hyundai Tucson diesel is the only one that can trump this with 136 kilowatts, but this engine does produce the most torque of any car in this class. I'll let you have a look at the stats of the main rivals while I close the bonnet, and then we'll check out the interior. If you thought the exterior was nice, check out the interior. This has got the optional white leather pack. I should point out at this stage that this car doesn't come with any options. The only option you can get on the CX-5 GT at least is the premium paint. So this is the Sol Red, sort of hero color of Mazda at the moment. It's a metallic paint, and it's about $300 extra than the normal paints. There are other metallic colors as well. But other than that, everything you see here is standard. I think this, on design alone, so forgetting accommodation and features and so on, design alone, this is definitely the best interior of this class. Like, check out the shapes and everything that's going on here. There's nothing that looks like it's dated or is going to date anytime soon. and all of the material colours that are chosen seem to mesh really, really well. Even the wood-like trim on the dash here, it all seems to mesh in very elegantly. I love the air vents. They sort of take the shape of the front grille, or if it's spun on its side. I love the door handles there with the big deep door pockets, and the center console. I'll start it up for you. Being the diesel, there is a bit of a clutter going on, but it's pretty smooth and refined for a diesel engine. The 2 litre and the 2.5 litre petrol you can also get with this car, as this is the more popular option, the petrol engines. They're actually quite noisy as well. They're obviously not as noisy as this, but they're quite noisy as well, so that's something to note. But yeah, coinciding with the design of the interior, the materials that Mazda has used are all excellent as well. So you've got this sort of fake leather stitched stuff on the dash, a sort of hard rubbery surface for the top of the dash, and even down below on the center console here you've got more sort of white leather with, well, vaguely contrasting stitching. It's all very, very nice. And then everywhere else you've got this sort of brushed aluminium trim for the console, the vents, and the knobs and things. They feel high quality too, like they're made out of metal. The way everything integrates in here is beautifully done. Like even those Bose speakers, check out those. They're very well crafted into the A-pillar there. I also love the power window switches. They're automatic up and down for all four, which is good. I don't know why some cars come with just auto up and down for the driver and then not the others. It's literally just a little plastic lug on the switch. There's no actual reason for it to be not standard on all, but anyway. But these feel really nice to press. They're like a high quality little button there. They're not like a flimsy little plastic thing that you get on most of the other cars in the market. It's pretty easy to get a nice natural driving position in the CX-5, as with most Mazdas on the market actually, and everything is within arm's reach, so you don't need to reach up and touch the screen, although you can when you're stationary. You just use this pad down here, which is an awesome system. I really like the way it operates. It's very easy to pick up. You just go through the main menus. You've got your entertainment, then you can go across, pick your style of entertainment, Pandora, Bluetooth, USB, and so on. The only thing I don't like about it is the screen changing. So say you go into the radio stations, you pick Dance, Super Digi, and then you decide, actually that song's not very good. If you're like me, you're a bit ADD and you like changing the station every 2 seconds, you've got to go back into the menu and start again. So if you pick a channel that's right down here, so old school hits, then you go, okay, I want to change the song after the song's finished, for example. You've got to go back in and then scroll all the way back down. So it's not ideal. So you click something, I'm not touching that, and then it's just going back to a different menu. Most cars, or maybe 50% of cars actually do that on the market, and I find it very annoying. There's only a few that stand out for me. BMW, it doesn't change. You just pick something, then you can scroll through, click that, it'll stay there, and you can click that, it'll stay there. Lexus also has the option to turn it on and off, so you can click auto screen change on or off. But I've gone through the menus in here, and there doesn't seem to be any option to do that. So these are the main menus, so you can change the height and everything, and the brightness of the head-up display. Not sure if you can see that on the windscreen. I'll try and line it up. But basically, yeah, you can change the height and the brightness of that. You can also turn it off, I think. Actually, can you? Yeah, you can. So active driving display off, and then it disappears. It's a very smart technology, very innovative, and it's handy because you don't have to look down to check the speedo. It's already in your eyesight. Just personally, I don't really like them. I find them a little bit distracting, but that's totally just me. I think most people in the market will love this type of setup. It's also got a speed limit reading, speed sign recognition. You can't quite see it in the display on the windscreen. I'm not sure if that's even lined up properly, but yeah, there's a little circle that's got this the speed limit in the middle there. But yeah, I think you can turn that off as well. But anyway, we'll keep going. Display, you can turn it on to night and day and all that. And then safety, change the, so this has got autonomous emergency braking for slow speed, in forward and reverse. And you can also got there's the traffic sign recognition, so you can turn that on and off if you want to for some reason. And then you've got a rear view camera with parking sensors. Change around the sound, so this has got the Bose sound system, awesome sound system, cranks the bass, it's really nice. As you can see, that's been turned up there. Change the clock and so on. Vehicle, rain sensing wipers, so you don't have to put the wipers on. Like most cars, automatic wipers in this they're not really the best, but every car's like that. Even if you get into a brand new Lexus, that you'll find that you end up putting the wipers on yourself because it just doesn't pick it up properly. Then you've got your devices and so on. Tool tips, I'm not sure exactly what that is, but yeah, there's a lot to play around in to configure your settings. Then the main menus are navigation, communications, so you can go into your phone. You can see your messages displayed up here as well. I don't have mine switched on at the moment. And then back to your applications, fuel economy monitor and so on. But yeah, there's a lot to play around with. I love the system. You can drive along, you don't have to look at the screen, you can just change things. Even if you do have to change them radio stations, like I said, you just flick it across one and then go back down, and you pretty much do that without looking across and your hands just rotating down here. But yeah, that's definitely a system that all manufacturers should adopt. I reckon touching the screen is pretty much just as distracting as playing with your phone. What's the difference between, playing with your phone down here or touching the screen there? It's all the same thing. It's still distracting, whereas this is just that next step, just takes away the distraction just a little bit. In terms of space to move around, it's pretty good in here for the class standards. I'm about 5'7", I think, 170 centimeters, so I'm pretty short. But my head's nowhere near the roof. This one's got the sunroof, but even with that closed, my head's nowhere near the ceiling there, and I've got good leg room. The only thing that this does slightly hamper the comfort is the center console. It does stick right out, and your leg does actually rub up against it a little bit. It's not too bad. Like all Mazdas, for some reason they don't have a proper plastic or rubber footrest. You've just got the carpet, which obviously will wear out after a while. But yeah, with your foot firmly on that rest, it's pretty much touching the center console there. I think someone that's a bit bigger than me, or a lot bigger than me, would definitely, that would start to be a little bit annoying. But I think most cars in this market space are similar to that anyway. Let's have a look at the back seat. Even before you get in, it looks very classy, looks very premium for a sort of mainstream car. And space back here is pretty good too. My head's not near the ceiling at all. This does droop down a little bit, but that's towards the front to house the sunroof. But at the back here, it does have a bit of a dip there to place your head. Even if you're taller than me, you're not going to be touching the ceiling. And you've got this pretty cool little console box. It's also got USB ports in the back there. I'm not sure if you can see that, but that's pretty cool. Like if you've got your family and you're going for a bit of a road trip, it's always good to have a charging port for them, so they're not stuffing around with your charging port in the front. It's also got vents in the back to keep them cool with on-off switch. There's no temperature control there, just the on-off switch. But yeah, overall this is quite a comfortable place to be. I like Mazda seats. They're always quite thin. They're not big and bulky. Not only taking up room, but even this perception of room. So when they're nice and thin, you can sort of see out a bit easier. It gives you that perception of more space. There is a center console tunnel there, so the middle seat passenger is going to be a bit more confined. The backrest is a bit firmer as well, because you've got that the flip down cup holders there, and my knee is just starting to touch the seat there and the seat rail at the bottom there. But it's not too bad. I mean, if you had two adults that are my size or smaller, you'd be fine. But I think if you had three sort of normal sized adults or larger adults than me, then you'd probably be a bit squashed in here. But it's not too bad for the market standards in this segment. I think the CX or the Honda CR-V has probably got a bit more room than this, and also the Nissan X-Trail. We'll have a look at the boot. Power tailgate for the GT model. And there you've got 442 litres of cargo capacity and about 1300 with the rear seats folded down. You can actually fold the rear seats down using these little tabs here in the back, so that's handy. You don't have to always walk around to the front, which can be good if you're, say, parked on the side of a road and it's pretty busy and there's cars going past and you've got to get round to the side to flip that seat down. Well, you don't have to. You can just stay at the back and just use that lever. It flips down automatically. This isn't the biggest boot in the segment. In fact, it's about the second smallest out of the main rivals, I think. I'll flash up the main rivals and all the capacities on the screen now so you can have a look. But I think this is the second from the bottom, with the Subaru Forester providing slightly less than this. So at the beginning we said, why is this so popular? Well, so far we know the interior presents the best design in the class, also some of the best material quality that you can see in this class as well. Also the interface, the touchscreen interface, the MZD Connect, that's also definitely at the top of the class in my opinion. So far we can see that it is a quite attractive car just on packaging alone. Down points, obviously the cargo space is slightly small, and the nose is a bit low for a car of this segment. As long as you're not looking to do any serious off-roading, which, to tell you the truth, I don't think many people in this segment will be doing any serious off-roading. They might go onto the dirt road or something like that. It's not going to be a problem. And besides, the upshot is you get a nice, elegant design at the front. So let's take it for a drive and see how it handles on the road. One of the things I like about the driving dynamics of the CX-5 and a lot of current Mazda models actually is the suspension. It's a nice taut, rubbery sort of feel. I don't know how Mazda does it, but it's got this sort of braced, absorbent feel to it without being too firm that it's uncomfortable. It's also very quiet, so sometimes you hit bumps in cars and they bang and crash throughout the whole chassis, whereas this, it's always really quiet. Even if you hit a speed bump with a bit of speed, it sort of just catches the bump really, really well. I'm on a pretty poor road at the moment and there's not too much road roar coming through to the cabin. It's pretty quiet for this class anyway. As I said before though, I think those tyres, if they fit more premium tyres, I think that'll reduce the noise even more so. But yeah, excellent visibility in here. I'm perched up pretty high, even though I've got the seat on the lowest setting, so if you like a high seating position, you can raise it right up and really peer over your other motorists. But even with the lowest setting, it's quite high and I've got good visibility. The window sills are pretty low as well. Only thing I am noticing with this drive is the steering is a little bit heavy just off center. So when you're on center it's fine, but as soon as you start rotating more than say a quarter of a turn, it just starts to load up a little bit. I did check the tire pressures before driving today, so it's not that, it's just a little bit sort of firm. This is fine if you like sporty sort of steering setups, and you definitely soon get used to it. I'm stepping in and out of cars pretty much every week, so it's harder for me to sort of get used to something. Something strikes me sooner than it would maybe another motorist. You know, you could drive this for a week and you'd totally forget about it. Whereas I'm just noticing, yeah, it's just a little bit firm once you start rotating. Very easy to place on the road though. There's no play on center, so as soon as you make a move, the car does move. There's no sort of play. But in saying that, it's not twitchy. So some cars you're driving along the highway and you've got to constantly just fight to keep it straight, whereas this has sort of got a nice cushioned section in the middle, and then it starts to be a bit more reactive when you turn it a bit more. That might be something to do with the feel that I'm getting through the wheel after a quarter of a turn, actually. Being the diesel version, on paper this one looks like the most exciting with all that torque. The 2.5 litre engine, I have driven that as well. It's a bit of a screamer. It likes to make a bit of noise and a bit of racket, and it's peaky, so the power is up high in the rev range. If we want to get the most out of it, you do need to rev it right out, whereas this is obviously, being turbo diesel, you can just use that low end surge to pull you along. Throttle response isn't super snappy, even though you've got 420 Newton meters, so you push it sort of halfway down, it doesn't pick up straight away, but you do get that surging feel even though it doesn't kick down the gears. I'm not sure how well you can hear it, but the diesel engine is very quiet. It's not making too much clatter like a typical diesel that you might get in a ute or something like that. Not that this is intending to be a sports car. I think the CX-5 is definitely one of the best handlers in this class. It feels pretty nimble and agile, and it handles quite well without you know, breaking into a bit of tyre squeal when you're pushing it. The brakes are also very good. The only thing that is a bit of a letdown is the engine response. I thought 420 Newton meters would feel a bit stronger than this, but it doesn't feel all that strong. So we're going 40 kilometers an hour, and I'll just put my foot flat to the floor. It's just a little bit lethargic. I thought it was going to be a bit more punchier than that. It's definitely got more than enough torque, and you know, acceleration is fine. It's just I thought it was going to be a bit punchier than that. Let's do that again. So 40 kilometers an hour. Floor it. Yeah, it revs pretty high. 5,000 is pretty high for a diesel engine. And it does go fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think if you want a bit more performance, then you'd go the 2.5 petrol engine. As I mentioned before, the CX-5 isn't the best prepared for off-roading, so it's definitely more oriented to on-road driving. The ground clearance is quite low compared with the main rivals, which further suggests that this should be spending more of its time on the road than off the road. I think I would pick the 2.5 petrol though. I thought I'd pick the diesel. This is the first time I've driven the Mazda's diesel engine. But just in this, with the all-wheel drive, it just doesn't provide the punch that I thought it would. It definitely goes good, and I'm sure it will go quite nicely with a full car load compared with the 2 litre or the 2.5 with a full car load. But yeah, I thought it would just be the 420 Newton meters. Seems like a lot of torque. It is a lot of torque, but it just doesn't really pick up as quick as I thought it would, that's all. So if you're comparing this to some of the other diesel rivals, the Nissan X-Trail with 380 Newton meters seems to feel a bit punchier than this for some reason. It could just be the throttle response setting that Nissan has gone for as opposed to what Mazda has gone for. And yeah, it's not like the CX-5 is heavy either. It's not the lightest in the class, but it is quite light for a all-wheel drive mid-sizer. A lot of the rivals weigh around 1,650 kilos. I'll flash up the specs now for you. But yeah, this is around 1,650 as well, which is very similar to the rivals. Overall, I'd say the drive experience is definitely the sportiest in the class. The handling is at the top of the class, definitely. The steering is got the most communication, even though it is a little bit heavy for my liking. And all the driving position and the placement of all the controls, it feels more like a car than a SUV. I would pick the 2.5 litre petrol engine though, as I mentioned, just because it does produce a bit more go, and I think it's a bit punchier. I can't remember, but I also think the 2.5's got the sport button, so you can actually change it so it's even more punchier. Obviously this is performance drive. I have to talk about the performance. I can't go through without talking about sort of, you know, sporty driving, so that's there for that. But for everyone in this market, I don't think it's going to be a problem. The diesel is quite nice. It's surprisingly quiet, and it's definitely very fuel efficient. So I'm using 6.5 litres per 100 Ks in the real world, and the official rating is 6. So yeah, compared with some of the rivals, they chew a lot more than that. Back to that original question though, why is it so popular? So we know the interior is definitely at the top or near the top of the class in most areas, definitely in terms of design and material quality, but also packaging as well. It's got all the features that you need, and then also the exterior design is very nice. And now we find the engine provides excellent fuel economy and enough grunt for a day-to-day driving. It's worth mentioning that the CX-5's towing capacity is one of the highest in the class at 1,800 kilos braked. So I think the only other car that matches that is the Subaru Forester. All others are lower than that. But anyway, let's head back down to the car park and we'll wrap this up. At Performance Drive, we're not paid by any of the manufacturers to say or do anything, unlike a lot of the other websites out there. But my opinion is, I can see why so many people buy the CX-5. It genuinely is one of the best, or it's at the very top of the class standards. The interior is awesome with the MZD Connect, the interior materials, the packaging, so the head-up display and all that, the USB ports in the back. It really does come with a lot of equipment. And also the design, it stands out. It really does stand out on the road, especially compared with the market rivals. Also, you've got that strong diesel engine. As I mentioned, the petrol 2.5 is probably going to be the pick for most people, and I think it is more popular in Australia by quite a bit, because it does produce a lot more power and a lot more punch, but you do have to rev it out a bit more. I think if you're driving long distances regularly, the diesel is probably going to be better because it is a lot more fuel efficient, but yeah, it doesn't provide the punch that I thought it would, even with 420 Newton meters. We'll be doing the 0 to 100 video a bit later on, but hopefully this detailed POV provided some sort of insight for you. And it's not, as I said, we're not paid by Mazda to do this. This is just, I saw that the 0 to 100 video we did last year of the 2017 model, the petrol model, was really popular. So I thought, why not go over this with a bit more detail and then provide some truth for you. I'll be doing a more in-depth review on the website soon, as usual. And as I said, we'll do the 0 to 100 video as well. Thanks for watching.